This meeting is being recorded.
वैराग्य विद्या निज भक्ति योगा शिक्षार्थमेक पुरुष पुराना श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य शरीर धारी कृपाम्बुदीर्य तमहं प्रपद्ये मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणम् वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, warm welcome to everyone in Bhagavad Gita study. And today we have Evie and Bhakti Nivi and Bhakta Louis joining us in Bhagavad Gita study in Temple Room in Karuna Bhavan, ISKCON, Scotland, and our usual friends on Zoom. So thank you very much for joining. And give me a second. Hare Krishna. So, chapter 5th, and I think today's text is text 12. So, let us see text 12. युक्त कर्म फलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्त कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते. So it's coming up chapter 5 and text 12. Okay, Puneet Prabhuji, would you be okay to read translation and purport? ट्रांसलेशन और purport पढ़ पाओगे क्या पुनीत प्रभु?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Would you be open?
My bit will all
ट्रांसलेशन और purport पढ़ पाओगे क्या?
and line एक बार scroll करना पड़ेगा ना, अच्छा translation देखो. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. The difference between a person in Krishna consciousness and a person in bodily consciousness is that the former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. The person who is attached to Krishna and works for him only is certainly a liberated person, and he has no anxiety over the results of his work. In the Bhagavatam, the cause of anxiety over the results of an activity is explained as being one functioning in the conception of duality. In the Bhagavatam, the cause of anxiety over the result of an activity is explained as being one functioning in the conception of duality, that is, without knowledge of the absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy, and Krishna is all good. Therefore, activities in Krishna consciousness are on the absolute plane. They are transcendental and have no material effect. One is therefore filled with peace in Krishna consciousness, but one who is entangled in profit calculation for self gratification cannot have that peace. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. realization that there is no existence beside Krishna is the platform of peace and fearlessness.
ट्रांसलेशन पढ़िएगा.
The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers self-control to all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes attached.
Prabhupada's purports are amazing. Prabhupada's purport. So in this purport, okay, screen हटा सकते हो चाहो तो वैसे. So what does what is the opposite of duality? We all kind of understand what duality means. What is the opposite of duality? Oh, brilliant. Yeah. We got it like so smart. We saying the opposite of duality is non-duality. Wow. I mean, if we have such brilliant students, wow, what else can we say that? So if we not a spot on real spot on answer, but maybe a bit of a mediocre answer if you could say. So opposite of duality. Okay, what is duality?
One thing opposite another, so like good and bad, black and white.
Yeah. So two facets of one thing, say two sides of one thing,
Yeah.
right? Like say temperature, so hot and cold. Emotion, happy and sad. Yeah. Emotion, fearful, fearless. Then say economically well off or starving. Health-wise, oh, very able or not at all able, handicap. Yes, Pun Prabhu. Opposite of duality. What is opposite of duality? कुछ कह रहे थे पुन प्रभु?
हाँ उसको कह रहा था एकदम से ध्यान से निकल गया.
Okay, so yeah, see if you can recall, then anytime unmute yourself and say. Opposite of duality is something written as something said as explained as absolute. Absolute. And what does absolute mean then?
One thing only.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be
Yes,
one
but
way, individual.
absolute means one-sided. Only one-sided. Only one-sided. So, like we discussed maybe few times, but we can discuss over and over again. Like sugar candy. Sugar candy, is it sweet? Of course it is sweet. Now from where? Which portion? Which side? It's sweet from everywhere. Every angle, every portion, every side, right? Sugar candy. So it's one-sided. What one-sided? It is all sweet. Likewise, if something could be very spicy, it's one-sided, full of spice, spicy only. So Krishna is one-sided. And what? Krishna is all good. Krishna is all good. Anything Krishna does, there is an element of sweetness in it. Krishna, anything he does is an element of sweetness. So there's an element of care, there's an element of concern, there's an element of love, there's an element of benefit there. Because Krishna is only one-sided on this, in this sense only. So, and we live in this world of duality, right? Like, I'm not sure how common in UK it is. It is quite common, I would say, in India to have a mobile phone with dual SIM. So you can operate two SIMs from different mobile operators as well. You can have two different SIM cards and use them sort of, and you get your separate bills or separate kind of numbers and things like that and all. Duality is like something which gives us two-sided, black and white. Huh? But uh, Krishna is all good, is all one-sided, is all absolute. And this is the thing of spiritual practice. Even though in spiritual practice there is anxiety, there is fear, but even that anxiety is all good. And the anxiety we carry in our say, normal day-to-day dealings, it isn't any good. We know, okay, this anxiety is killing me. It's really troubling me. Huh? And we know, okay, this thing, yeah, it's giving me security. I got a job, oh fine, I feel very secure now. Or I'm going to lose my job, I feel very anxious now. But in Krishna consciousness, security is also peace giving, anxiety is also peace giving ultimately. Why? Because it is all meant to bring us closer to Krishna, or it is all feeding the center of our life, feeding the center of our life, the source of our life, who is Krishna. Yeah. So, and Krishna is such a personality who is like, he's absolute. Means he's the center of everyone, and center in the middle and the end and everything. So, this whole of Bhagavad Gita, actually, it helps us understand who Krishna is, what sort of personality he is, and gives us an identity of Krishna. Gives us an identity of Krishna. And when we know some person, so when we know a person and we understand, okay, this person is a bit dodgy, then we will stay away from that person. We wouldn't be in a relationship with person. We wouldn't want to be in a relationship with the person. But when we know, okay, this person is all one-sided, which is all sweet, all good, and whatever I am doing, good or bad, yet he is always on the good side of me. He's always kind of helping me, he's always benefiting me and all. So when we understand Krishna, we naturally would want to fall in love with him. In life as well, when we understand someone, when we know someone, when we know something, understand something, we want to fall in love with that thing. Be it knowledge, be it person, be it activity, whatever it is. Because we all are hankering to give our love to someone and receive that love as well from someone. And this is what, like, the steadily devoted soul, as it says in translation, attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to Krishna. Because he knows that my source is Krishna, and whatever I do it in a way that it brings me closer to Krishna. And we would come closer to Krishna when we kind of work for Krishna, when we love Krishna, when we try to be in a relationship with Krishna. And Krishna is a very personal person. He's a very personal person, and he's a very, like, I don't have any authority, but I've heard from devotees, and uh, so just saying that he's a very personal, talkative person as well. But having said this, all this is not for fun, saying, okay, he's a very personal, talkative person to make some good, uh, say, comment in discussion. No. Uh, the whole study of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita is not just for entertainment, or it's not for some intellectual stimulation, some peace to the mind and all. Rather, it is to bring about a revolution in our consciousness altogether, to make us more contemplative, to make us more introspective, to make us more, to provoke more thoughts within us, and to internalize ourselves furthermore, to go more internal and to go more deep and take into the practice. And See, everything is like greed is there, which is a natural emotion. The only thing is in life is like how can we transform ourselves? How can we elevate ourselves? So we have greed. It's just that greed now should be transformed towards the practice of Krishna consciousness. In the sense, like EV is contemplating moving from Portsmouth, south of London, moving from south of England to Karuna Bhavan. It's called Scotland Temple, nearby Karuna Bhavan, very close to Karuna Bhavan. Because there is an element of greed. Yeah, that if I move close to Karuna Bhavan, then I will be more close to temple and then associate daily programs and all and everything. So certainly there is that element of greed involved, and this is what should be taken. Another person could be like, okay, no, maybe Les Mego is a very slow village, not much happening here. Let me move to down south of England. And why there's lots of glamour there, there's lots of this and that there, more pubs there. So, but his greed and that greed is not going to be very satisfying the person. So the emotion can never be killed as such, and nor do we want to as such. It's just how do we channelize, how do we utilize, how do we make use of that emotion. And this is why a practice has to be, a suitable practice has to be there. Otherwise, in lip service, no one makes any progress. Huh? All talk and no show, no one makes any progress. And so the philosophy has to be backed up with good chanting, proper chanting, reading, hearing, and then services, engaging in some services and all to then practice the philosophy. Krishna consciousness becomes way more appealing when we start practicing it. Way more appealing when we actually practice it. Okay, any thoughts, questions, or comments?
There's really there's no harm in trying as well as the thing. It's not like you've got anything to lose by trying the practice. You try it, you see for yourself. How does this affect my consciousness? How does it affect the way that I, think and process and feel?
Hmm.
And then if you find, that maybe this isn't favorable, then there's nothing lost.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if that was the case.
When we know in life there's nothing to lose, then one becomes very peaceful. One becomes very fearless. One becomes very calm, composed. I've got nothing to lose as such. This is when the practice of Krishna consciousness, there's not that sort of pressure or anxiety one feels as opposed to what one may be experiencing in his job, in his business, in his work, in his family or relationships and all. But in Krishna consciousness, even though there could be pressure and all, but there's nothing to lose as such. Even that pressure is helping one to grow. This is why, no? And see, so many up until first six chapters, or up until first five chapters, so many places Krishna is advising Arjuna, telling him again and again, give up the results of your activities, give up the results of your activities, because we are so attached to results, and that is what leads us into fear. But if we give up the results of our activities, then Arjuna has nothing to worry about. He doesn't need to worry about the war or the outcome of the war, and he can be free in fighting. Krishna consciousness, if we apply it, it frees us from every. It works at wholesome level, uh, at every. We don't need separately, honestly. If we practice Krishna consciousness very properly, genuinely in good, inspiring association, and we don't need any external motivation. We don't need any sort of external source of entertainment as well. We don't need any other sort of external physical activity and all to keep ourselves fine. Body, mind, and soul, every facet will be very nicely taken care of. Okay, let's see next. सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यस्यास्ते सुखं वसि नवद्वारे पुरे देहि neva kurvan na karayan. Okay, let's try reading translation and purpose little by little. So, Evie, would you be okay reading translation?
When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
Louis, would you be okay to read first part of the purpose?
The embodied soul lives in the city of nine gates. The activities of the body, or the figurative city of body, are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of his embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof with bodily activities. In such a controlled life, in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of nine gates. The nine gates are mentioned as follows. As follows.
नवद्वारे पुरे देहि हंसो ले जायते बहि वसि सर्वस्य लोकस्य स्थावरस्य चरस्य च. People, you want to complete?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of a living entity, is the controller of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of nine gates, two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, one mouth, the anus, and the genitals. The living entity in his conditioned stage identifies himself with the body. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. Svetasvatara Upanishad 18. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and inner activities of the material body.
Translation.
When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
So, controls his nature, right? What does it mean, controls his nature? Yeah, controls his lower nature because currently we are in a lower energy, right? So we are carrying lower nature, our mind and senses and our activities and engagement, our inclinations, our desires, aims and aspirations. Okay, screen हटा सकते हो वैसे. Our desires, aims and aspirations and all, they are not very on the conducive, or they are not on the path of self-realization, generally speaking. So uh, uh, pushing forward in spiritual journey and at the same time controlling one's lower tendencies, one's lower nature, then one can, because they are, I mean, spiritual practice, Krishna consciousness practice is an uphill task, and something being an uphill task, like there has to be energy exerted. mm, and in this, say, suppose again, say we are climbing a hill or doing an uphill task, something, and if we realize, oh, I left my mobile phone down there, or I left my wallet down there, or I left my bag down there and all, so then it's going to be a big problem, right? Yeah, either I would be thinking about it and then so much of contemplation, what to do and all. I need it, don't need it. I go back and bring it up and all. So spiritual journey, it's always it's an uphill task, and alongside we should carry whatever is conducive for our progressive realization of God consciousness. and whatever is not needed, we should be better leaving it behind with us. Mm. And if we give time into the practice, then we realize, okay, wow, I actually didn't need that. It was not required. I maybe having at that time, I was thinking that I would be empty without it, say something for that matter. But now that I've spent time in practicing Krishna consciousness, well, I'm not empty. I feel very fulfilled. I feel very complete. I feel very like, yeah, nourished. And just if we get a slight taste in the practice of Krishna consciousness, how encouraging it would be. Tremendously encouraging. Because see, we all receive some taste in winning is something in sports or uh, in school, college, uni, or further life and all. Some sort of taste we receive when we come through, get some achievements and something on those lines. But that taste uh, not of a pure nature. It does not give us any sense of freedom. Rather, it senses a false. It fuels a false sense of achievement, of pride, vanity, or confidence or arrogance. Oh yes, I do not need anyone else now. I do not need material nature or world or Krishna or God, universe and all. And I'm capable. I can do further. And then we go on slightly on a different trajectory. There is a huge chance, but this taste of, say, victory in Krishna consciousness is very sweet. It is very peace giving, very calming. Um, it is a subject matter of the heart. And then we can see that there is no joy that can be compared to this experience of spiritual happiness realized in Krishna consciousness. So that slight bit of taste, if we get from Krishna consciousness, how motivating it will be for us to continue a bit further. And whole life is for experience. This human life is for experience, and we don't know how deep, how high Krishna consciousness goes. Krishna is ever evolving, not changing, but ever evolving, and we are hardly evolving, but we are changing. We change faces, we change attitude, nature, thoughts, desires, and so much. So we are on a flickering side, very changing. And Krishna is not of that mindset or mood. He's all one-sided, and in that one-sided also, he's not stagnant. He's always evolving. Uh, So likewise, if we change our nature or if we evolve our nature, take into the practice of Krishna consciousness, then we will also find ourselves, okay, I want to evolve now rather than change as such. And we'll experience a much higher joy. And this so many such propositions Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita, all for us to experience, to realize. Like herein it says, like when the living entity controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. So Krishna is giving this proposition, and anything Krishna is offering in Bhagavad Gita, nothing of it is not practical. Everything is practical, everything is real, everything is doable, attainable. Otherwise, why would Krishna say? He isn't saying, okay, draw a flower in the sky now. No. Something which is of no good, no use, no practical and all. He isn't saying that. Or actually, maybe he says as well, but Arjuna refutes, okay, this is not practical. And Krishna says, okay, yes, this is not practical and all. So, from all angles, all avenues, Krishna is telling us what is practical, what is not practical, what is doable, what is not doable. And for our current age, say, what is compatible for us to actually, in this life itself, attain Godhead. So now, how do we channelize ourselves? How do we present ourselves? Even though gradually, slowly, steadily, no problem. But as long as we are making efforts, then we will experience. And it's all this is to meant for us to experience. I asked this question many a times like this. What is the difference between information, knowledge, and wisdom? This again, I personally ask it to myself. What is the difference between information, knowledge, and wisdom? And where do I mostly fit in? One day, every one of us have to give up our body. Now, would I want to leave my body, give up my body, just gathering information, or stuck at the knowledge platform, mental platform, or some intellectual stimulation, or actually be a bit wise, uh, some transcendental realization? In this world, there is no dearth of information, there's no lacking of information. Google and YouTube and others are there really to bombard us fully with information. Mm. But number two, it has a two-ness of it. Five has a five-ness of it, say. So Google can tell us number two, symbol, this and that, in different languages, how it is written, how it is spoken, how it is pronounced, and all. But Google can never tell us the two-ness of two. That Google can never tell us. Who can tell us that? A spiritual master, a spiritual teacher only, a realized soul, a transcendental realized soul who has seen the truth, who is living with that absolute reality, who is completely tuned in line, fixed up with that absolute reality. And imagine how much peace or what sort of experience we will experience when we can experience the two-ness of two. So uplifting it would be. In one shot, all the miseries or all the blockages, whatever is holding us down and all, will all be gone in one shot. So this human life is gives us this potential, uh, this opportunity. We have this capacity, all of us, to experience that fiveness of five. And this is never taught in school, college, uni, or anywhere, workplace or family settings, or yeah, nowhere. Only in spiritual settings with spiritual like-minded persons who are practicing. Like it says in the purport, the last para, the living entity in his conditioned stage identifies himself with the body. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. Even while in the body. And this is an experience. Narad Muni, he himself went through this experience. Uh, we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 5, when Narad Muni, his mother used to do some services, hmm, for her livelihood. She used to do some services where around hermitages, monasteries where transcendental spiritual practitioners were residing. So his mom used to go and do some cleaning services and like that. And Narad Muni was a young boy at that time, so he also used to follow his mom, and he was very sincere and obedient. And the sages, they naturally like children, so they had that sort of say liking towards Narad Muni. And Narad Muni, he had the remnants of food. Mm. And then having that remnants of food, their leftover of food of those sages, he developed kind of interest in spending time with them and hearing from them. And when he heard from them that I and the Lord both are transcendental, both are transcendental, it was a revolution for him, such a revolutionary moment for him, brought about a real revolution in his consciousness, and he wanted to experience that furthermore. And he absorbed himself in complete meditation. So much so that he captured the Lord, and the Lord appeared to Narad Muni in his vision and gave him darshan and gave him further messages and instructions. And likewise, if Narad Muni he could do it, so can we as well. But Narad Muni he could do it because of the mercy of the sages, transcendentalists, and all. And we can also do it if we have that mercy. And this Narad Muni is indirectly telling to Vyasdev, his disciple, that look, this is what went through with me. This is what went through with me. And indirectly, I mean, a spiritual master wouldn't directly tell his disciple, right? That, oh, you do this, and then I will give you mercy. Or if you take my mercy, if you have my mercy, then you will attain Godhead. But indirectly, Narad Muni was telling Vyasdev about his own life experience and journey. And then Vyasdev found so much of peace and furthermore message, so that Vyasdev uh, engaged himself in writing literature, or he knew where the secret lies, where the mercy lies, and he wanted to tap into that mercy of his spiritual master. Likewise, if we associate with saintly people are also one-sided, na? They just give in mercy only. Their cursing is also mercy, and their embracing is also mercy, because they are one-sided. Because they know that uh, my dear Lord, my Lord, they know this thing. When he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while living in this body. So, like as we were discussing very briefly, just by dying, one doesn't become a saint. Just by dying, one doesn't become a saint. Saintliness is something which has to be practiced. And when one practices this saintliness, even living in this material body, there's lots of limitations, and one cannot, in this material body, actually attain the stage of prema, love, pure love for Krishna. huh? But still, one can come to a stage of bhav. One can definitely come to a stage of attachment and bhav. And then one can actually see that when his absorption is so full in Krishna, then this body won't be compatible for him to this environment, this time, place, zone won't at all be compatible for him to live in. And Krishna will arrange that life is like a chase. Life is exactly like a chase. Now everyone is in a chase, right? Everyone is in a race, a chase, chasing his dreams. huh? But if I may say, 99 point perhaps 9%, 99.9% are chasing what? Maya, are chasing woman, wealth, and wine. huh? Chasing that happiness in woman, wealth, and wine, in sense enjoyment altogether. Say woman, wealth, and wine, or men, wealth, and wine, or whatever we want to say. Hmm? We get the message though. And it's only very few who are wanting to chase after Krishna. And when one knows, okay, like Yashoda mother, Yashoda was completely chasing after Krishna only. So Krishna knew, okay, mom is desperate now. She's after me and she's desperate and she means it. So Krishna became available. Krishna revealed himself. Likewise, when we are in a chase after Krishna, we shouldn't leave any scope for Krishna to sneak in. We shouldn't leave any scope for Krishna to sneak in. Okay, any thoughts, questions, or comments? Maybe later on we can a bit hear from Evie as well, her experiences of chanting and her experience of practicing Krishna consciousness. Let's see next. Actually, 14th, and I mean every translation purport is amazing, but like I am this 15th, I love that 15th and how it flows. So let's see if time permits, we'll try to go up until 15. Let's see. न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभु न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते. Harsha ji, read translation and purport.
The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. The living entity, as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies or natures of the Supreme Lord, but is distinct from matter, which is another nature called inferior of the Lord. Somehow, the superior nature, the living entity, has been in contact with material nature since time immemorial. The temporary body or material dwelling place which he obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant reactions. Living in such a conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the
फिर से
body,
पढ़िए वो लाइन.
it is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. As long as he is in the city of the body, he appears to be the master of it, but actually he is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. He is simply in the midst of the material ocean, struggling for existence. He is simply in the midst of the material ocean, struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him, and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
Amazing translation, amazing purport, isn't it? Prabhupada's purport are magic, pure, uh, pure knowledge altogether. So there's this real and apparent. What does apparent mean? Apparent means? स्क्रीन हटा सकते हो या चाहिए तो रख भी सकते हो. It suits you. So apparent है ना. So apparently real. Looks to be real, but it isn't necessarily real, or in reality it is not real. And see how we are living is in this world of illusion. Apparently we believe we are the master, or apparently we believe we are in control. Apparently we believe we are the enjoyers, but actually we are not the enjoyer. We are not the master. We are not the controllers. Rather we are so controlled. Rather we are so controlled and we are so owned. We are completely owned actually. It seems if we go in city center, it seems apparently, oh, people are enjoying. I mean, again, if one is intoxicated, how can one enjoy? For enjoying, one has to be alive, one has to be awake. Only then actually one can enjoy. But when you are intoxicated under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or under the influence of pride, vanity, hmm, or under the influence of sleep, laziness, how can you possibly enjoy? No. How can you be possibly in knowledge? No. How can you be possibly in peace? How can one possibly in peace? No way. We see in each and every sentence of Prabhupada's purport, each and every sentence is leading us to liberation altogether. They have the potency to detach us from matter enjoyment, bring about a real sense of renunciation or detachment amongst us, and also awaken, give us real knowledge. Now, uh, sometimes there's fairs or exhibitions, wherein what is that person called? I think there could be a name for him. So a person who is कठपुतली को क्या बोलेंगे अंग्रेजी में? Dolls, say a person who is making dolls dance. Usually, sometimes we see puppeteer. Yes. So puppeteer who makes the puppets dance. And a child, when he sees, oh, puppet dancing, a child is very fascinated and child likes so much and he relishes puppets are dancing. But if someone is adult, someone is a bit grown up and wise, he wouldn't have that sort of fascination because he knows actually the puppets are not dancing on their own. The puppets have got strings behind them and those strings are being pulled by the puppeteer. So the puppets are dancing as the puppeteer wants them to dance and all. And child, because he doesn't see the strings, he doesn't see the puppeteer and all. Oh wow, how fascinating they are dancing and all. Like that gets enamored. Hmm. Likewise, we are also getting enamored, pulled heavily by the modes of material nature. Sometimes goodness pulls us, or we want to be peaceful, sober, kind, charitable, compassionate. Hmm. And sometimes passion pulls us so much. Oh, I want to achieve this. I want to get this. I want my name imprinted here. I want this controllership. I want possessions and whatnot and things like that. And ignorance kicks in. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to think anything. So all this we are heavily being pulled by these different modes. And actually, when we practice Krishna consciousness, it's a very paradoxical experiences. The whole learning is very paradoxical. Why? Because we are living very much in our lower modes, lower nature. And when we practice Krishna consciousness, it is so vast and we realize, oh my God, how fallen am I? I mean, see, these are the paradoxes. One who can convincingly, genuinely, in full faith say that I'm very fallen. I'm tremendously fallen. He is actually very wise. He is actually very pure. One who can genuinely and yeah, in full conviction, full faith, say I'm fallen. But in societal dealings, even though one knows as well, one cannot say this. One wouldn't say this because he knows if I say this, I will be axed from my position, whatever. So, societal dealings, we want to put a good face. We want to show a good face. Uh, I want to look good. I want to sound good. But question is, have I genuinely become good? I want to appear good. So apparent is no good. Reality is what has to be followed. Reality. And to begin with, approaching reality or being in line with reality could be austere, could be tough, could be hard work. But still, one should strive further and further. So, the spirit soul proper, who is the master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Actually, we are the soul is seen as the king. Soul is the king proper. And for a king, who is the next most close person to a king? Queen, yeah. Huh?
Yes.
Hmm?
It's a few people.
So,
Yes, so someone was
Chester. Who?
just
Just. Who's just? Ministers.
Ministers, yeah,
the
advisors.
king's clown.
Okay, king's clown. He's close as well, but just for fun, for entertainment.
The son.
Huh?
The son.
Sun as well, yeah, okay. So the soul is the king proper. And say the no, next law say queen or the intelligence minister of the king, the advisors. They are the one king relies upon. है ना? We see like the king has to show the face. King has to show the face, right? Oh, I'm going in this ceremony, in this ribbon cutting, and so many things. And king, he tries to keep a bit an overview, but it is his advisors, intelligence advisors, and all. They know more the ground reality and things like that. So the king relies more on his advisors. Then it comes his ministers, and then uh, the people in general, the praja, the population, the people in general, the subordinates and all. Huh? So likewise for the soul proper, we are the soul proper, as in we are the king, and we should live like king, as in control of our mind and senses, and the intelligence, our advisor is next. So we should sharpen our intelligence, our spiritual intelligence. Then through a sharpened spiritual intelligence, we should always keep the mind controlled and pacified and mind happy. And when the mind will be controlled, pacified and happy, senses will be so relieved, as in the wider population. Now imagine if the Prime Minister of the country is very God conscious, is very spiritual, noble. If the Prime Minister is genuinely spiritual, noble, the first action he will take is stop intoxication altogether, close intoxications, close slaughterhouses. Shishikorantai Mayapusa Shiki Jai. Close intoxication, close uh, slaughterhouses, close gambling and all, uh, close this prostitution trade, or very much regulate them. And if we do this, cannot be closed actually, cannot be closed, but should be regulated, very much tremendously regulated. I mean, I don't want to go into details, but there are stats which shows that in Europe and could be in UK as well, people drink more beer than water. Uh, can look into more stats. This is the like king. We are the soul proper, so we should look after our senses, our mind, our intelligence, our overall well-being. Likewise, the prime minister no, is responsible not just for the citizens, not just for humans, for animals as well, for plants as well, for overall nature as well. And there's no need in society at this large for intoxication. There's no need in society at this large for drugs, at this large for gambling. Uh, I mean, it's a farce when people say, "Oh, gamble responsibly." You know, there's this advertisement or whichever that gambling companies gamble responsibly. I mean, the two, it cannot doesn't go together, right? I mean, how could one possibly gamble responsibly? And why this much of enticement to gamble with plastic money, fake money, all such things? When you go in, see, Ladbrokes or other, gambling casinos sort of in city center, will find the way the machines and everything, the glamour and all around it, it is to lure, suck someone And then you say, you may write in, oh, gamble responsibly. Just like in movies, at the beginning of the movie, what they would say, warning, disclaimer, caution, this has got no touch with reality, and please do not imitate these scenes in your house, and these are dangerous, and so much such things. But then when you show in movie, how much one will actually, if one is influenced by it, can he keep a sane mind? And actually it was like many, no, seeing Spider-Man, Superman movies, boys, they try to imitate Spider-Man, Superman, and many give up their life as well. Hmm? Seeing such stunt movies and all action-oriented movies, they try to imitate those actors, and they give up their lives as well. And then if we tell the movie star, oh, why did you, well, we put a disclaimer, right at the very beginning. So we put a disclaimer in the very beginning, smoking is injurious to health. And then in the movies, what do we show? People how they smoke and all. So if we are actually the king ourselves, we would be taking good care. So if we are king, sharpen your intelligence. We should sharpen our intelligence. And intelligence can be sharpened through spiritual practice. Then mind will be so pacified, controlled, at peace and happiness, and senses will be so relieved. Ooh. Likewise, a prime minister, in order to bring peace in society, not happiness, but say good peace, this meat eating, intoxication, gambling, prostitution, they have to be very much regulated. Naturally, will there be a peace in society, and economy will flourish. Economy will flourish, actually. These are all sorts of myths or misconceptions when we say, okay, if there is no gambling, if there is no intoxication, how will the economy, the industry will come down, the meat industry, this industry will come down and all. When we are growing in morality, we will have good brains. And we will have, with good brains, we will be bringing a moral economy altogether. Very pious and peaceful. There's lots to say, but maybe I will a bit shy away from going into details. Okay, any question or comments? Let's see next. The way this leads, and this 15 especially, I like the translation in the purport, fascinating. So maybe we have limited time, we try to see as much as we can see. Nadate kasyachit papam na cheva sukritam vibhu agyane na vritam jnanam tena muyanti gyantava. Neha, read translation.
Uh, Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activity, embodied being, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
Hmm. Okay, so I think we read purport in splits maybe. Yeah. So, Evie, would you like to read the purport, please? Uh,
The Sanskrit word Vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity is, by superior nature, full of knowledge.
Actually, we
Nevertheless,
can never blame God for anything. We can never blame God. We can never. God is to be given all credit. Yeah. Krishna is all good. Krishna is absolute, all one-sided. So even if we are put behind the bars, punishment, we are in material world or wherever, Krishna is giving us the best. Krishna knows what is our best and whatever is happening. And even in this life, like through karma as well, through punishment as well. He's giving us very fair, lenient, and doing the best for us. So yeah, please continue.
Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. But the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul, as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning.
Conditioning. Amazing purport, I find it. Say again, desire is a?
Desire is a subtle form of conditioning.
Nowhere else we can realize this in life. Nowhere else. Only in a spiritual setting. That desire is such a potent, powerful, subtle form of conditioning. So heavy. Any sentence like in Purpose of Prabhupada, if we are blessed by devotees, then each and every sentence we can find, oh wow, this is opening the doors of liberation for me. Yeah.
Yes. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare.
Okay, you just read the hymns and maybe we can read further on the purport. Okay.
Esa Yuhri Eva Sadhu.
Okay, please read the hymn, please.
Esha Uhyevas.
Oh, please.
Esha Uhyeva Sadhu Karma Karyati Kamyamevyo Lokebya Uninishate. Esha Uhyeva Sadhu Karma Karyati Yam Adho Nilishate.
So read this Sanskrit as well and then the translation. Yes, please.
The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. That's from Kaushitaki Upanishad 3.8. Agyo Jantor Anisho Yam Atmana Sukha Dukhayo Ishvara Parito Gachet Svargam Vashvabram Evacha. The living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell, as a cloud is driven by the air.
Louis, would you be okay to read through here?
Sure.
Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immortal desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutras also confirm this. Vaisamya Nai
Vaishamya Nargrihinye Na Sapekshatvataki Darshayati.
the Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to.
Which translation is it, please?
Nah, never.
No, translation.
Oh, right. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
See, British people like moaning a bit, right?
No.
British people like to moan. When people in general worldwide, everyone likes a bit of a moan. Especially like British people would like moaning about the weather, maybe, or the politics, the politicians. And again, people worldwide, they would like moaning politicians or whatever. So moaning, complaining, especially blaming, it's not at all a healthy activity. These are not qualities of the soul proper. These are not. So through the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, we will realize, wow, there's so much good qualities to imbibe in life, and I'm lacking in so much good qualities. And the way the process is laid out through the means of chanting, reading, hearing, honoring prasadam, naturally all these good qualities will be coming up on us. All this, and see, it's such a freedom is not in blaming. That's like, okay, I'm free. Freedom is in regulation or in discipline. But if we think, okay, I know I want to be unregulated and free, no, that's not freedom. That's bound up altogether. So how this leads up, like this was like Krishna definitely does not assumes or makes anyone sinful or engage in sinful or pious activities, nor does the Supreme Lord. So neither the spirit soul in proper consciousness, nor does the Supreme Lord assumes anyone sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, those who are in trapped in bodily consciousness of life, in misidentification, thinking oneself to be body or not thinking themselves to be in relationship with Krishna, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers the real knowledge. And in that bewilderment, we blame Krishna. Now, uh, I suppose it would be it is, I think, a worldwide thing. In UK, in cinemas, if we go, isn't it like just when the movie starts, all the lights are turned off, right? Lights are turned off, and if someone is coming a bit late into the cinema hall, say, and is wanting to search his seats, so he has his tickets, and he maybe through his phone or someone he tries to go into his find where is his seat, and he sits there. And when the lights are turned off, but say by mistake, sometimes does it happen by mistake? Okay, lights are all turned on, or say someone is through his mobile phone torchlight or like that, and lights are turned on. So when those lights are slightly turned on or something, it disrupts the entertainment, right? It disrupts the mood. It is not good. Like in India, sometimes it happens that a movie is going on and suddenly all the lights in the cinema hall are turned on, and people start shouting, "Oh, turn off the light! Turn off the light!" So now it is us who go into, say, cinema hall. I'm just trying to use this example to again satisfy my mind or to help myself understand. We ourselves go into the cinema hall to watch a movie, which is fiction, mostly fiction only. And then we also say turn the lights off. Why? Because if the lights are not turned off, we cannot absorb, we cannot immerse, we cannot go into that illusion set what is being portrayed. Because if the lights are turned off, then only I can leave my real identity behind me. and I can be in the movie, and I can see, oh wow, look at this beautiful actress, how she's dressed, how she's dancing, smiling, and all. And maybe girls may want to imitate her, and boys may want to imitate the actor. Oh, wow, look how he's fighting, how he's floating, and all these things, and we can project. So we cannot. It is us only who says, "Okay, turn off the light," and I want to go in illusion and all. We cannot blame. We cannot put kind of a finger. Oh no, it's the media person's fault. It's the movie industry's fault. It's them fault. Their fault. No, and it's certainly not God's fault. See, car showroom. There's so many cars, right? Mercedes, BMW, and other cars and all. Possibly Ferrari if there is in a showroom, or Porsche and other cars. Now, what do these car showrooms do, Audi and all? They would very nicely keep the car flashy, clean, shiny, and just there. And in a model, okay, the car is just tempting, come, have me, take me, buy me, own me. Now you will be happy. Your life will be very happy, will be very enjoyable, relishable. Own me. So car is just there tempting like a dress. If we go Zara, H&M, whatever these shops and all, a dress is there. Just put mm, on that skeleton shape, and it's just tempting. Okay, buy me, have me, take me, and you will feel happy and all. But it is the living entity who chooses to go and get the dress. It is the living entity who chooses to go and get the car. In the sense of what I'm trying to help myself understand is, it is the living entity who tries to choose Maya, who goes for Maya, who chooses Maya over Krishna. And then in that attempt, the after effect is we feel dejected. And dejected, we never blame our desires. We never blame our actions, thoughts, or ourselves or something. uh, but we blame God. We blame God. Or even if we blame ourselves, we are anyways living in this bodily misidentification crisis. And when when one is in illusion, or when one is intoxicated, whatever he speaks, whatever he says or does is all under the influence of intoxication. So when we are on the bodily mind platform, we are swayed by our mind and senses only. Bodily designation of life, bodily concept, material concept of life. And in that, whatever we do, it is going to be very temporary. It isn't going to be any wisdom oriented. No wisdom oriented, no knowledge oriented. So we won't experience any peace. Okay, any thoughts, question, or comment?
I think of this verse earlier on in the Gita, Arjuna asks Krishna about what we're pulled to sinful actions as though they're forced. Krishna replies, it's lust only. So as we have to acknowledge our own independent action, our own independent decisions, it's also we have to remain somewhat. Even Arjuna says how difficult it is to avoid this. It's as though we're being forced into this by the illusory energy, by lust. So it is our choice how to act. But it's also good to keep in mind that it is very difficult, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It sometimes doesn't feel like a choice through our conditioning.
Yeah. We can never afford to feed any negativity into ourselves. Or see, considering I'm fallen is fine, but too much of self pity is not good. It's no good. So this self pity, considering myself worthless and all. When devotees say worthless, they are worthless like in what? In attainment of Krishna, or in that sense, and that's a sense with a sense of genuine humility. But when we say, "Oh, I'm so worthless," isn't like I failed in my attempt, in my result, in my pursuit. I didn't attain what my goal, and I consider myself worthless. And then, oh, buckle up, and next step, try hard, and you will attain it. That's a different mentality altogether. But practicing Krishna consciousness, see, this is the thing. Even though we realize we are so fallen, but we are not morose. or depressed like that. Huh? Otherwise, we would not have like 700, 800 centers worldwide. There won't be. Yeah. If we go on in classes, oh, we are so fallen. Oh, yes, I practice Krishna consciousness. Yeah. No, but this is the paradox. This is the paradox. The more fallen we are, we realize the more motivation to practice Krishna consciousness. Another thing, in practice of Krishna consciousness, death is at the forefront. Death is at the forefront throughout. Uh, we can never afford to forget that. And in societal dealings, that is a cover up. That is never discussed. That is never discussed. The more we discuss that, the more aware we are, the more trained we will be. Okay. Any thoughts or comments or question? Okay, I think we leave it here. Enough of maybe hammering for today. Otherwise, tomorrow Louis and Evie won't turn up. And we have got about 9 minutes for Gaura Aarti, so we can do a short Kirtan, 9 minutes, and then Gaura Aarti. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.